fellas, within the last 12 months, we have had 3 releases of Mario RPGs, but not a single one of them belongs to the same series. We've had Super Mario RPG, we've had Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, we've had Mario and Luigi Brothership, and I guess we also have another sub-series that didn't release in these last 12 months, but released not long before that, being Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So there's 4 concurrent RPG series going. What does the future look like, though? Do you think they're all going to survive? And which one do you think is going to take the prominent hold?
It seems like Nintendo wants to kind of test and see which one gets the people's attention more. Which style of these Mario RPGs is something that they want to go through in the future? Because I don't really think we're going to see all 3. I think it's a bit unrealistic to think that all 3 of these will be something we see in the future. My gut reaction is that they want to do something with the Paper Mario series because that's kind of been the most consistent throughout the years. They've been in very different styles over the years, but it's been the most consistent on appearing on Nintendo platforms as of now.
Well, what's interesting too is each of them belong to a different developer, so it's not that they're crossing over resources. Though the only unknown now is whether Acquire will be acquired, which is kind of worrying.
Yeah.
But Ash, what's your gut? Like, which one do you feel like is most likely to either we'll see first or just continue on forever?
You know, it's hard to say, because I kind of feel like there's a future for all 3 of these series. The most uncertain one, of course, is Mario and Luigi at the moment because of the development team Acquire potentially getting acquired by Sony, as you just said. So that one's a little bit shaky. At the same time, though, we've seen that they're already willing to give Mario and Luigi to another development team to give them a shot. So even if Acquire does get taken out of the picture later on, that doesn't necessarily mean that Mario and Luigi is over, as we have already seen, right? So I wouldn't necessarily count Mario and Luigi out, but I do think it'll be the longest of all 3 or 4 series, I guess. Well, no, of all the 3 series right now, before we'll see it again, because I don't think Mario and Rabbids is going to happen anytime soon again, if ever, really. If I had to guess, if any of them is on...
The directors left Ubisoft now, so it's...
Exactly, so... yeah, so I don't see really another one of those happening. But, you know, I do want to call our attention to something that the director of Super Mario RPG mentioned soon after the remake came out. And he mentioned that he'd like to make one more Mario RPG before he retires. He said, I'd really like my final one to be another Mario RPG game. And given that, you know, we know that the remake of Super Mario RPG sold quite well, part of me wonders if maybe a true blue sequel to Mario RPG could be on the horizon.
It didn't just sell quite well. It was the best-selling of all of these RPGs.
Right.
I think we're still waiting for Brothership's actual figures, but it sold better than Thousand Year Door. That might just be the privilege of going first, but I also think it's the best title, right? Like, if you're just an average consumer who's going into a store, doesn't know about all the Mario sub-series, and you see 3 franchises. One of them's called Mario RPG, another one's called Paper Mario, and the other one's called Mario and Luigi. Like, which one says to you this is an RPG? Because to be honest, Mario and Luigi is a terrible name.
At least in terms,
looking back on it, Paper Mario is a pretty bad name. It's like, what does
a pretty
this
bad
even
name
mean?
too. Yeah,
because originally that series was supposed to be called Mario Story, and it's still called. Well, the original was called Mario Story in Japan because it's kind of supposed to be a spin-off of Yoshi's Story, which is you see a lot of the relations there, especially in Chapter 5 of Paper Mario. But it just became Paper Mario, and that name just kind of stuck all the way through, just because the aesthetic was these characters are completely flats. So it's like, what's the identity of the next game going to even be at this point? Because they'll probably stick with Paper Mario because that's just been a series staple for a long time. But I would love to see another Mario RPG because that's such a unique take. It's the most like traditionally JRPG of all these series. Mario and Luigi it's so weird to think that's like a JRPG because it's so odd that you have only 2 characters throughout this entire journey, and that's absurd to think that that's an RPG when you have like usually a big old cast of characters joining you at the very least.
And then it works so well.
Yeah,
despite that. Yeah. I think Paper Mario is inevitable, obviously. Yeah. I mean, Paper Mario has shown that it has legs. It's going to keep going. I think the more interesting conversation around Paper Mario specifically is not whether there'll be another one, because of course there's going to be another one. It's what form will it take? It is, and this is a question fans have been asking since Thousand Year Door Remake has been a thing. is Thousand Year Door Remake Nintendo testing the waters for a return to a more traditional JRPG setup for Paper Mario going forward? So less Origami King and Color Splash and more Thousand Year Door and 64 for the next original game, right?
Right, and it feels like the obvious answer to that is like Thousand Year Door will be the blueprint, because it was so critically well received. It sold well too. So Sticker Star sold well. It sold really well actually, but it kind of damaged the series for a while, and Color Splash did too. Origami King was more welcomely received, but I think there was that stigma against Paper Mario there for a while, and they're probably quite eager to move away from that stigma. But that said, now that we have two other Mario RPG series, being Mario & Luigi and Mario RPG, there's now like more, I guess, less of an incentive than ever for Paper Mario to be a traditional RPG again. Because through all these series, the one that can just continue being an adventure game is this one.
Right, and even back when Paper Mario kind of took its different direction, one of the stated reasons why at the time, and I remember this because I did an interview about this at E3 one of those years. I think it was around when Color Splash came out, and they basically name dropped Mario and Luigi at the time as the reason for why they felt like they could kind of go in a different direction with Paper Mario and say, well, we're going to go more of an adventure game direction with Paper Mario because don't worry, y'all have Mario and Luigi to satisfy that traditional JRPG itch, so you shouldn't want that from Paper Mario anymore. That was what they said at the time of Color Splash. And now, and as you're saying, John, it's true that right now, with potentially 3 Mario RPG series running concurrently again, or for the first time, really, they have less incentive than ever to take Paper Mario in that direction, and yet that's what the Thousand Year Door remake seems to be indicating they want to do regardless. So it's quite interesting when you think about it from that perspective.
It hurts my soul to think that realistically Paper Mario might just go back to being the adventure style, because this series has been most experimented with all the way back from Super Paper Mario on the Wii. That was slowly leaning away from its traditional styles. It still kept like the chapters and all that, so it still had that blueprint. But from then on, they just kind of leaned further away. And the series was kind of drifting because it was definitely not what fans wanted. But now that we have, the Thousand Year Door remake, we have what we wanted after so long. Is just to go back to its roots. It's a remake, but it's something that people have been like vying for a long time. And it's the different environment now. We have 3 RPG series existing, and I really wish and I really hope that they kind of like take the best aspects of all 3 of these and just kind of combine them into one, because I really enjoy like the whole audience style aspect of battle. Like that makes it so engaging for me, and it's to have that kind of just be gone forever. It just makes me sad because there's so much potential in that in the future titles.
I guess the big question when it comes to Nintendo greenlighting a game isn't necessarily like, do we need this IP back? Do we need the franchise back? It's usually, do we have a studio who's willing to work on this game and we can trust to work on this game? And with all 3 of these, like, it's just a ceremonious yes. Like, Intelligent Systems are always going to do more Paper Mario. Acquire, if they are free to do so, will undoubtedly do another Mario & Luigi. And then Art Piazza, I think they would absolutely do another Mario RPG. So I think logistically, there isn't really a reason why all 3 couldn't coexist, really.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think as Alpha Lion just mentioned, and we kind of touched on earlier, Mario and Luigi could be in trouble if the Kadokawa deals goes through with Sony. But at the same time, that doesn't, Acquire aren't necessarily the only team out there who can be trusted with making a new Mario and Luigi game either. So
they aren't.
Yeah,
but I think we know from the past that it takes a long time to find a developer.
Yeah.
Like with Metroid Dread, finding Mercury Steam took years. I think this took 9 years to get Acquire.
True enough.
So it is obviously you can find another development team, but it's not quite as simple as like just give these guys the contract and pick it right back up again. There would be a lull for a while.
It's also difficult considering that like Acquire does have members of Alpha Dream in that team, and so if you lose them, you lose more of that DNA that we have in Brothership again. So you're kind of starting from square one all over again. And then with Mario RPG, like there is precedence to have a creator come back and like work on a series one more time. Like we have Yoshio Sakamoto worked on Famicom Detective Club with the Smiling Man, and there's definitely grounds to have somebody come back and just like do one more in this series, even though it's been dormant for a long time. So I can see that happening. Just give us another shot at Mario RPG.
Yeah, and Famicom Detective Club was another case of like finding a team with mages, and there was a time when mages were fighting with like struggle to keep themselves afloat, and Famicom Detective Club actually helped them with that. So a lot of these third parties, it benefits everybody to work in these franchises, which is why I don't see Acquire of their own accord wanting to stop.
Professor Bonk in our live audience chat makes the fair point, asking, "Can we call Mario RPG a series? Though it's technically one game, LOL." And that kind of calls back to something we were mentioning earlier about how the game's director would like to return for another one. And given that Super Mario RPG sold so incredibly well, maybe it doesn't have to be a series, right? Or, sorry, maybe it doesn't have to no longer it can be a series now. And I thought this was weird at the time, and I still think it's odd that for the remake of Mario RPG, they specifically got rid of the subtitle for the remake, The Legend of the Seven Stars. They got rid of that for some reason. It's part of the game's name. And, it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything direct for our discussion now, but it does make me wonder, did they do that to kind of reestablish Super Mario RPG as its own brand so they can then maybe, going forward, use subtitles for a new game, right? Like... It just makes one wonder. I mean, would it be called Super Mario RPG 2, or could it just be Super Mario RPG something, something, something? But it does feel more possible than ever, especially given what you said, Daniel, about Yoshio Sakamoto coming back like 20 plus years later for a third Famicom Detective Club game. Why couldn't there be another Mario RPG game with characters like Mallow and Geno if Nintendo feels like that's what people want all these years later, given how well the remake was received? We're living in uncharted territories now. If Famicom freaking Detective Club can get a new game, why not Super Mario RPG, right?
Right. Yeah, they got a team to do the remakes, and now then they had grounds to do a new title. And I don't know, it doesn't seem all that far-fetched to think that the same could happen with Mario RPG.
No. I think the game that will probably get a game, the series that will probably get a game next is probably Paper Mario, just because Thousand Year Door was a remake. I imagine a lot of that team was working on a new game while that was in development. So I imagine Paper Mario is going to get a new game first. And I think that despite there being 3 concurrent series, I'm pretty confident that it will be an RPG rather than an adventure game, just because they must know that's what people want at this point. That's why they did the 1,000 Year Door in the first place. And I don't know if the sales have directly shown that this is the right path, because both Origami King and Sticker Star sold better than it. But those are also brand new games. And that's typically how things go, which makes Mario RPG Remake even more impressive, that it's sold so well for being a remake of a Super Nintendo game.
And Origami King may have been boosted by COVID at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's that too.
That's true.
It's really interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what form the next Paper Mario game takes, because of course Paper Mario fans are notoriously picky in terms of the kind of games they want from the next game of the franchise. Personally, I really enjoyed Origami King. No, I didn't think it was perfect, but I really enjoyed it in its own way. But I'd be remiss if I didn't admit that going back to that traditional style for the 1,000 Year Door remake wasn't incredibly exciting. And given that it probably will be quite a while before we see Mario and Luigi again, I do hope that the next, and then of course the idea of a Mario RPG sequel is a bit in the air. I do really hope that the next Paper Mario does kind of harken back to that more traditional style finally.
But it should embrace what Origami King did as well. Like, I think you'd be ignorant to look at Origami King and say this is a step back in every way, because that game does stuff grander and some stuff better than 1,000 Year Door. But just having those core mechanics back and some of the vibes back, mixed with some of the developments of Origami King, that's what I want.
Well, we even saw that 1,000 Year Door Remake had some of the DNA of Origami King, and things like the way the soundtrack was remixed in that big band style. Sure. Every battle or every chapter having its own battle theme, every region of the world having its own variant, stuff like that. So we can clearly see already that they're not afraid to take what they think or know worked from the Origami King and maybe stuff that into a more traditional game design JRPG style. Regardless, I think one thing we could certainly agree on is that the future really doesn't feel like it's ever been brighter for Mario RPGs. Like, talk about having a moment, and a moment that continues.
Yeah, I mean, we came into this being like, which one's going to survive? And I think right now, are we all kind of feeling like all of them will?
they may come at different points of time, but I think they all have a chance to still have another title in them. And yeah, it's weird to think that like 2 years ago, this conversation wouldn't even be a thing, but now we have all three series just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And I think it's funny that development of all these just lined up so that they all release within like a year and a half of each other. And I've never been happier because there's always all those people who say that they're the biggest Paper Mario 1000 Year Door fans, and they finally got to play Mario at the 1000 Year Door.
I am excited to see Acquire take on a sequel because a Brothership, for all its problems, I think they nailed the core.
Yes,
and if they get a second chance, I think they could make a really fantastic game. I hope they get that second chance.
For all the criticism that Brothership gets, I keep telling people like this is a new team working on this series. Like there's still people from Alpha Dream that are working on this, but more or less it's pretty well done for a new team tackling the series for the first time, and they'll probably just learn from criticisms from here on if they are able to do a sequel. And I think that this series can really get back on track to what we had in the original titles for sure.
It's exciting too that we probably won't see another one. I guess we might see one more on the current system. And I'm picturing what RPAs are going to do with Mario RPG's art style on stronger hardware, because they were already so close to pre-rendered. It already looks so close to how the Super Nintendo game looked, and just imagining what they're going to be capable of with a bit more horsepower is very exciting.
Do you think, speaking about a potential Super Mario RPG sequel, do you think that if there is one, given that we know Mallow and Geno are Square Enix owned characters, do you think they'll go back to that well? Will we get a direct sequel with Geno and Mallow returning, or will it be an entirely new story, maybe in the same art style or a beefed up version of the same art style? What are you guys thinking about that?
That's a hard one because these characters are so like ingrained with Mario RPG themselves, but it's pretty traditional that you would have like a new cast of characters for any kind of sequel. I could see them at least making a cameo or having a important part of the story. Maybe one of them will join you for this journey, but it is funny, like this is way far off thinking, but it's just funny to think about what the party would be in a sequel. Like, do you have Peach and Bowser working together again with Mario? I don't know. It had to be a very specific plot with its weird, unique cast of characters, which is what I loved a lot about that series, was that how strange and different the cast of characters were in that title.
I feel like Geno's story is done. I think the way to do it is to have them as cameos, or have like Mallow be the villain or something. I don't know.
But oh no!
Whoa! We're going too far now.
My boy,
Mallow villain.
I love the idea of Bowser and Peach being back in the party, but I think I'd rather Mallow and Geno rest and form some new characters to replace them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like maybe I want to split the difference. I think maybe I agree that Geno's story is over, but why can't Mallow come back and pal around with Mario and company again at least?
I mean, have Mallow keep carrying the Geno doll.
He's busy.
That's a morbid idea.
That's true. Yeah. He does have a kingdom to run. Good point. I just hope we see another Mario RPG in any form, whether or not they come back. I do think the idea of the core, original Mario RPG getting a sequel all these years later is an incredibly cool one, and likelier than ever right in this moment.
Yeah, they were super true to form of the original SNES title, and they didn't really add too much to it to make it any difference. But it's funny to compare that now to what we get with Brothership, which has a bit of a longer, a bigger problem with pacing. So I think if we get some kind of balance between the two, that'd be ideal for a sequel of this game.
Agreed.
Right. Well, anything else you guys want to say? Because I feel like we've just kind of said, like, let's just continue as it is.
Mario and Luigi Brothership, the supervisor Akira Otani said that they considered HD 2D given their work with Octopath Traveler. And I'm trying to think of like Superstar Saga made in HD 2D, and it's blowing my mind right now. That would have been incredible to see it in that style. Right. Despite everything, I really love the very animated art style that we got with Brothership. I think they're animated wonderfully. They have like that stretch and pull from like old kind of cartoons, and it fits the brothers very well. I'm glad they went in this direction regardless.
I do like this question from Professor Bunk. The real question is, who's the secret boss in Mario RPG 2? Like, if you could pick from any modern Square title, who would you... What big 3D model would you bring into this this chibi game?
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. Kefka.
Just have like Clive there.
Kefka.
Just Clive smacking small Mario.
Clive, yeah. Oh man, or just bring it full circle and make it Sephiroth. Sephiroth's just in every he's in Kingdom Hearts now. He can be in Mario RPG.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I don't know. There's so much they could do. I just hope that if they do that they do another weird cameo, or not really cameo, but kind of a weird cheeky reference like that to Final Fantasy or some. But then again, that's because Square were the co-developer on Mario RPG. Will they be again? Will that even
have
be?
to be? Like,
They don't have to
RPGs
be.
work
Yeah.
closely with Square, but they aren't owned by Square. They can do
Right.
something without
So
them.
Square doesn't even have to have any involvement in
Yeah.
Mario RPG 2, should
Yeah,
there
you
be
know,
one.
That'd be crazy because, like, in the Mario RPG, we were wondering what the secret boss would look like, and it's very much pixelated, like as we were hoping. And so, if we get, imagine this same art style of Mario RPG in the sequel, but the secret boss is like hyper realistic Final Fantasy 6, like you're fighting
Yeah.
Ifrit from Final Fantasy 16 or something.
That's
That'd be,
yeah.
It's like it's just ripped
Perfect.
from that game.
yeah, just
That's what
no,
Professor Bonk mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely no reason to or place here. They're completely out of place with that.
Even
art
the
style,
scale
but
of
that's
the
whole
model,
point.
like Mario's this tiny chippy self, and you've just got
Yeah.
this
Just
a little
giant.
squat
The
boy.
camera has to go so far out.
But
Just
this
a fit.
only works if Clive or / Ifrit has an attack called Accept the Truth. I will accept nothing less than him having an attack called Accept the Truth if this ends up
man.
happening. Yeah.
Soundtrack for that battle would go crazy.
Oh man, it would. Oh, they're so Nintendo. Obviously, you're listening. You listen to all of our videos. You
Of
watch all
course
of our
they do.
videos. So consider this one free. That one's free from us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna wrap us up here though, because
For sure.
we've come to the obvious conclusion that every game
Yes.
in this lineup is going to continue on. The only thing preventing it is Sony and the acquisition of Kawakawa, but hopefully that does not happen.
Hopefully.
Yeah, just give me all the Mario RPGs. I will consume all of them. Thank
Yes.
Give us the rights to Mario and Luigi. Just give us the rights to Mario and Luigi. If that happens with Kadokawa.
We got the voice for
We got
them right here with Brandon. We
Yeah.
can make it ourselves.
We got
I'll make
this,
the logo.
All right, everybody. Thank you, live audience, for tuning in with us. I love all your suggestions down that little box over there. It's always fun reading as we go. And if you want to be one of those people in the box, you can by supporting us over on Patreon in the live audience tier or above. Anyway, there'll be a lot more discussions over this period, so keep staying tuned to GVG, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Till we meet again.